Hello everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We join you today from the Farmers Market on the OSU campus. Farmers markets are growing in popularity. We'll take a look at some of the reasons why a little later. But first, the big news in Washington this week. Our ag policy specialist, Jody Campeacci, is helping us sort it out.
Definitely, there's a ton of uncertainty in Washington. Starting on September 30th, the Farm Bill expired for the second time. At the same time, Congress failed to pass the budget for the fiscal year 2014 or a continuing resolution for fiscal year 2013, which prompted a government shutdown earlier this week. This has huge implications for many government agencies and offices as well as farm programs.
And we want to look at sort of the agricultural side of everything. As we're sorting it out, let's start with the Farm Bill expiration and where we are there.
Well, we still haven't gotten a new Farm Bill, obviously. Earlier this year, the Senate passed their version of the Farm Bill. The House also passed their version of a farm-only program Farm Bill. Later in September, they actually passed their nutrition bill, and then at the end of September, they passed a resolution to combine their two bills. However, the House and the Senate still haven't went to conference to kind of work out the differences between these bills. So yet again, we're in the same situation as last year, where we have an expiration and we have no extension and no new Farm Bill yet. So what that means is, we have just a few months left in the end of this year where Congress has to do something. They have to either pass a new one, extend the current one, or we revert back to 1938 and 1949 permanent law. Now, you'll kind of think about what happened last year. Now that we're until October, we don't have many working days left in Congress between October and through the end of December. So we're kind of, again, in the same situation. And what it means is it doesn't mean a whole lot for farm programs for the next few months. The same thing last year. There wasn't much disruption in farm programs between October and December. Now, should nothing happen at the end of December, farm programs will definitely see more of an effect.
In terms of the government shutdown, let's talk about the limited access. Obviously, it's impacting the information that you can access and then in turn provide to farmers.
Yes, definitely. All the USDA websites are not accessible right now, so access to data, commodity reports, those are pretty important. One that comes out on October 11th that a lot of commodity analysts use. And, if that report is not available, that could definitely affect some of the commodity operations.
And then in terms of offices, government offices that farmers may need access to, there's some limitations there.
Yes, due to the government shutdown, the Farm Service Agency, Natural Resource Conservation Service, and just most of the government agencies that anyone would need to access, the government shutdown prevents those from being open. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention about farm programs, and specifically operating loans, those producers who get operating loans through the Farm Service Agency generally get payments just about this time, and they usually need to pay off operating loans at their local bank. Those loans disbursements could be delayed due to the government shutdown.
Wrapping this all up, what kind of advice do you have for farmers getting through this?
This is definitely a difficult time. Obviously, we have more uncertainty this year than last year. Right now, we're just going to have to ride it out and see what happens.
Okay, Jody Campeacci, our ag policy specialist, staying on top of it for us. We'll see you again soon. Thank you. From late spring through early fall, producers like Wayne Whitmore of Payne County truck their freshly picked products to farmers markets.
This is probably our 28th year to go to farmers markets.
And he keeps coming back, selling at 6 different farmers markets every week. Wayne grows a wide variety of vegetables and a lot more.
We have about 20 to 22 acres in produce. We also have a cow herd, cow-calf operation, and run our cattle on wheat pasture, and grow traditional crops, soybeans and wheat, and put up our own hay.
And as for Wayne's favorites,
I like growing sweet corn and also green chilies. My passion is the green chilies.
Another person with a passion for farming, this man, Edward Avalos.
He is.
Nice meeting you.
good to come over.
Edward Avila, it's a pleasure, Kim.
He grew up on a farm and is now Undersecretary for Marketing and Regulatory Programs for the USDA. We caught up with him during a recent visit to Oklahoma to interact with producers. The information that you glean from these 2 days that you're here, and you have quite a schedule, you get to see a lot of things. Will you then turn around and then take that back to Washington? Will that impact policy eventually?
Absolutely. As the Undersecretary for Marketing and Regulatory Programs, in my mission area, our focus is to facilitate production and marketing of agricultural products and livestock. And we deal everywhere from the producer all the way to the consumer. We deal with shippers, packers, processors, importers, exporters, wholesalers, retailers. And of course, we deal a lot with farmers markets.
And farmers markets like this one are seeing a resurgence in popularity. The Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food and Forestry lists nearly 75 registered farmers markets in the Oklahoma Grown program. In fact, studies show the number of farmers markets tripled in our state between 2004 and 2011, which keeps Wayne Whitmore and his fellow farmers coming back here week after week during the growing season.
It's a passion. There's a lot easier ways to make a living than what we do. It's a customer relationship we have started years ago, and it become contagious, I guess.
And now SUNUP's Austin Moore introduces us to a family who is turning to the farmers market for extra income.
If you want to look at agriculture in western Oklahoma, there is no better place to start than Major County.
In the area we are now, it's primarily wheat and cattle. In other areas to the north, we have a significant amount of irrigation, so we have corn, soybeans, some peanuts. And so we're not unusual to what western Oklahoma would be all about when it comes to agriculture.
One thing that certainly stands out, though, is this greenhouse on the Freed family farm just north of Homestead.
They've just got so much more color and smell to them. You can tell when tomatoes are happy, they've got a nice tomatoey smell to them.
You walk in the door and you know you're in tomato land.
Yes.
Here they aren't so much focused on wheat and cattle as they are tomatoes and cucumbers.
Well, this actually started probably when we started having grandchildren, and we wanted our grandchildren to have some place to work. And so we have grandchildren from 14 to 4, and they worked last year, and they really enjoyed it. It was fun, and they learned good work habits, and they make change and count the change back and things like that we thought was a good opportunity for the kids.
We've always had a small garden since I was young. We've always had a small garden and never did very well, but just enough for us probably. And so we decided to dedicate 3 acres to more gardening, and we're going to be using plasticulture.
Alongside that, they use a hoop house, greenhouse, and have built a packing shed with a grow room for starting plants.
But each tray is a different variety so that we can see which one is going to grow best and what we have. We have beefsteaks, we have artisans, these are jasper, these are small gold ones. We had really good luck last year with some little yellow ones, and they were wonderful tasting, but people wanted red ones. So we aren't doing very many yellows this year, we're doing more reds. And we've got everything from the little bitty ones to the 8 and 9 ounce ones.
It takes a certain amount of money to make a living, and I think there's 2 ways that you go about that. Either you expand, that involves more capital, more land. Folks that are aging are not wanting to do that as much, and so they're looking at ways of diversifying their agriculture enterprises and taking advantage of their experiences that they have. And so we see those folks looking at their ability to focus on smaller, high revenue generating type agriculture and maybe growing into something different.
One particular difference is in marketing this crop, mostly directly to consumers.
We plan to use the farmers market at Enid. There is a small farmers market at Fairview, and we're trying to get it bigger. We have used O'Keene a little bit with the farmers market and also taken stuff to the grocery store there.
Through this, we've met a number of other people that have the interest that probably could do it, for the added income.
The Freeds were and continue to be engaged in more traditional agricultural practices. But this added element has presented unexpected benefits.
I don't know that it's easier work, but it's more hands-on work, and you can work early in the morning and then go back out in the evenings and not doing so much during the heat of the day.
Quite frankly, it's very labor intensive, but I think it's work that people enjoy doing. I think it's manageable work. In this case, it will become indoors to a certain degree, so it eliminates some of the weather issues that folks can have problems with. But I think the manageability of it is attractive to folks. And then also, I think the opportunity to have an existing income throughout the year when managed properly, I think with hoop houses and tunnel gardening and that sort of thing, that income can be expanded throughout the year, and that's attractive with regards to cash flow.
This has been a good outlet for me because I enjoy going and learning and doing, meeting people. And so when I retired from my professional job, then I turned into a farmer.
Certainly not the most relaxing retirement plan, but just maybe the most rewarding. For SUNUP, I'm Austin Moore.
Hi, I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet Weather Report. You know how we Oklahomans love to talk about rain. Who got how much? Who got left out? Who needs more? The Oklahoma Mesonet has added a new set of rainfall maps to make it easier than ever to stay on top of how much rain has fallen across the state. From the Mesonet website, mesonet.org, go to the weather section and then rainfall. Scroll to the bottom of the page to scan through all of the rainfall tables and maps. The new rainfall maps are updated every 5 minutes and cover time periods longer than 30 days. The new rainfall maps include a 60-day map, 90-day map, 120-day map, 180-day map, and 365-day rainfall map. The numbers are recorded rainfalls at the Mesonet sites. The color background are radar rainfall estimates from the National Weather Service River Forecast Center. Using radar estimates, ground truth with rain gauge data provides the best estimate of rainfall between Mesonet sites. Here's Gary to sort out our current drought conditions.
Thanks, Alan. Good morning, everybody. As promised, we did get some rainfall last week, and that helped improve some of those building drought conditions. So let's take a look at the latest U.S. Drought Monitor map. We see improved conditions, especially in northwestern Oklahoma, but also over portions of north central Oklahoma. And we even lost that extreme drought down in southeastern Oklahoma. So improvements across the state, still parts of the state in drought though, but hopefully with some more rainfall, we can start to cut down on some more of those bad conditions. Now let's take a look forward at the outlooks for October from the National Weather Service's Climate Prediction Center. We see increased odds of above normal temperatures across almost the entire state, but also increased odds of below normal precipitation across northwestern Oklahoma. Now, as we look at that type of outlook, we also see the latest U.S. monthly drought outlook from the Climate Prediction Center for the month of October. And that leads to persistence of drought in areas where it already exists, but at least we don't see development in those areas where it doesn't exist now. So there's a bit of a trade-off there. We are heading into, as we get into later into October, November, December, we're heading into the driest part of the year, so it's difficult to get drought improvements. But this map merely says that where there's drought, it's probably going to stay drought. Where there's not drought, it might not develop. So good news and bad news and with that map. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
Time to talk about the latest from the grain markets. Joining us for that, Kim Anderson, grain marketing specialist here at Oklahoma State. Kim, no way to avoid it this week. The big news, the government shutdown. Let's talk about how that's affecting the markets.
Well, the grain markets or the commodity markets, you haven't had much impact. One analyst said that we have less information than we did before the government shut down. Like on export numbers, we might not get the WASDE report that's due out on the 11th. So we're depending on numbers that are coming from the market analysts. The market is providing the numbers. And this analyst said that there may be less volatility without the government numbers coming in because there's less information on the market. I think the important thing is that we're depending on numbers from the analytical firms, the large firms, and the large firms will have the information before the rest of us out in the public, but they've always had the numbers first. And like the WASDE report coming up on the 11th, you've got the average of the market analysts, which they try to predict what that USDA number is. I think what we got to be concerned about is when the government comes back to work and starts releasing numbers, and then we could have volatility of how the government's numbers matches the numbers we've been using beforehand.
Right. All right. Now this week we've seen a 52-cent increase in the wheat price over the course of the week. What's behind that? What's driving that?
Well, we talked about this last week, that the WASDE reports and the stocks reports showed that there was less wheat than the market thought we had. You look at hard red winter wheat ending stocks that came out in the last WASDE, 197 million bushels compared to 343 million last year. You can look at all classes of wheat ending stocks at 561 million bushels compared to 718 last year. I think the market realized that U.S. wheat stocks are relatively tight. There's a potential protein, shortage of protein wheat, and our hard red winter wheat's got good protein in it, and there's good export demand right now. I think what we got to all be concerned about, though, is we're harvesting and have essentially harvested over 80% of a record world crop coming in at just over 26 billion bushels. It was just over 24 billion last year, and the average is just under 25 billion. So we got a lot of wheat around the world. So there's adequate amounts of wheat, but what we don't have is good protein wheat, the world, and we have it, and that's why we've got higher prices.
All right, so with the lack of information coming from the government, with all the other reports, what are you watching right now?
Well, right now, and what I've always watched is the futures markets, because the futures markets, those prices reflect what the big players, what information they have. You may not know what that information is, but you know the impact it has on the market. I'm watching that Kansas City December contract. Right now it's trading between $7.50 and $7.80. I think that's the range. If it breaks $7.80, then it's going to run up to $8.05. But right now our target is $7.80. If it goes down and breaks $7.20, then our target's going to be $7.07. But you watch the futures, the big firms have always had the information before, even before USDA has it. And they drive prices with that. And so you just watch where those prices are going, and the trend is your friend. And follow what the big players are doing.
All right, so looking at the big players, for the little guy, is this the time to sell wheat?
I think it's time to sell some wheat. We've had over a 50 cent rally on the wheat. Don't sell a lot of it, stagger it into the market. I'd sell another 10 to 20% of my wheat, or 10 to 20%, say 20% of what I got left in storage.
All right, good information as always. Kim Anderson, Grain Marketing Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
October's that month when typically we will do weaning, and there's also a time of the year when we make the decision as to which cows will remain in the herd, as well as perhaps picking out which of those weaned calves will be retained as replacement heifers. I think that's a good time to remind folks of the importance of choosing which cattle we keep in our herd, somewhat based on temperament. We all know that wild cattle, excitable cattle, are very hard on equipment, they're hard on people, they're hard on other cattle, and now we know they're hard on the bottom line. Mississippi State University did an interesting experiment several years ago where they kept track of feeder calves that had gone through one of their feed-out programs. They scored those calves as they came in based on their temperament on a 1 through 5 scale. As they would walk out through the pens, they would write down the score as to how those calves would act, with 1 being a very docile calf and 5 being a very excitable or aggressive calf. Also, they kept track of what they call the velocity, exit velocity of those calves as they would leave the working chute. and put these two things together to evaluate the temperament of the calves. As they followed those same calves, then as they went to the feed lot, they found that those that were most excitable were calves that were spending more time getting treatment for sickness, and also, of course, were getting more costs involved with those health issues. As they checked to find the final outcome, those calves that were most excitable actually produced $40 per head less in potential profit than did the calves that were more docile. Research from other universities through a number of years has shown us that temperament of cattle is heritable. And the estimates are someplace in the neighborhood of about 36 to 45% heritable. That means that we can make progress in our herd by selecting against those wild cattle. So as we go through this fall, let's think about this. If we've got an especially wild cow in the herd, why not use this year as the year that we send her on to town and get those genetics out of our herd? As we watch those heifer calves, as we're going through the weaning process, those that perhaps are a little harder to handle, more excitable, in the long run may cost us money rather than make us money. Choosing cattle based on excitability or on being calm and very easy to work makes a great deal of sense, both from our health and from our bottom line's health. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
Hi, welcome to Shop Stop. Today we want to talk about troubleshooting and a systematic approach to that.
Okay, typically when you have a problem on, say for example, a hydrostat, there's a systematic approach of how you can go through and diagnose what could be the problem with the hydrostat.
Yeah, one of the things, one of the best things for troubleshooting is if you have a chart, a flow chart that you can follow, then now it says, hey, is this the problem? No, then here, then you move on. If it is, yes, here's what you do, and it takes you through a very systematic, step-by-step approach to the whole problem.
And typically, the way they work is they work from simplest to more complex problems. So you always want to start with the simple problems first. Always check the tanks if it's got gas in it.
Yeah, one thing you'll want to do, or one thing you may have in most operators' manuals, the troubleshooting information doesn't follow this flow chart. It's more of, hey, what's the problem, or what's the symptom, here's the potential problem, here's a solution. And it doesn't take you through that simple to more complex process of solving the problem.
Right, so it'll typically say your tractor 3-point hitch won't lower. There'll just be a segment there that says 3-point hitch won't lower, and then it'll say here's some suggestions of what to check.
Yeah. So the biggest key is when you start troubleshooting is to start simple, look for all the simple things first, and then go more complex.
That does it this week. See you next time on Shop Stop.
Now a look at a new training program online for prescribed burning. Understanding the benefits of fire is an important aspect of land management.
Though we may think that they look destructive, everything becomes black and it looks bad for just a little bit. Give it a little bit of time and stuff greens up. You see a lot of things. And fire is very important and very beneficial to all the plants, all the native plants here in our state. They're adapted to fire and they need fire. It impacts their roots, the microorganisms in the soil, the animals that use them. All that stuff is important, and we've found that fire is important, and nothing mimics fire that we can do. There's no mechanical treatment out there. There's no herbicide or chemical treatment out there that will mimic what fire does. Fire is a standalone ecosystem process. It's just as important as the rainfall that we get is about returning fire on the land.
Oklahoma Cooperative Extension is now offering a course designed to give producers a basic understanding of prescribed burning. Producers can go online to take the course and become certified in the basics of prescribed fire.
What we've developed is a basic online prescribed fire training course. It's made up about 8 sections of information, from just basic information on prescribed burning, prescribed fire law, fire effects, smoke management, fire breaks, and several other aspects about conducting prescribed burns.
The course is open to anyone and can be taken at any time. All you have to do is go online, set up a username, and complete the course.
It was mainly, it first started to be directed towards a lot of the members of the local prescribed burn associations here in Oklahoma to get them some type of training that was accessible and online that everybody could access. But we've also made it available where we want it available to anybody in the state that can use it. It's free of charge, doesn't cost anything to enroll or do anything like that, so it's all free to anybody that wants to access it. And so what it's going to do is to give people just a basic knowledge and an introduction to prescribed fire.
The lessons cover basic terminology, the effects of burning, and fire laws in several states.
We have a section that covers state laws, but not only we have Oklahoma law, we also have Kansas law, and we have the Nebraska law currently that's available for folks in those two states. We're working on getting Texas law added to it. We're also in the process of working with some folks in the southeastern U.S. and going to start adding several states, the laws from those states to it. So whatever state you're in, you can just log on, start taking the training. When you get to the law section, you can click on the state that you're from and go through and take your state, specifically your state law on fire, and then continue on with the training.
For more information and a link to the course, go to sunup.okstate.edu. That'll do it for us this week. Remember, you can find our stories anytime on our website, sunup.okstate.edu. You can also check us out on social media. I'm Lyndall Stout. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next time at SUNUP.